Let's play Lord of the Different Rings and conquer these flat mountaintops with these cutesy, faceless soldiers who have no fear, least of all heights, in this Cheapness Affordable Gaming review of the RTS Circle Empires. This region's main free exports are wood, berries, and altitude sickness medication. The land in question is Mountaintopia, land of wide, flat mountains equidistantly placed, mostly connected via land bridges, with irregular, circular climatic zones, yet uniform heights as though they were in the path of a giant's claymore. Such imagery, worthy of a good folktale. Well, looking at how perfect the cut is, the story may be a bit less epic. Giant's cheese garrote, maybe. But the inhabitants are quite used to this arrangement, as even during crowded conditions, none of them fall off, not even during combat. It's a strategy game where you literally fight to be top of the heap. No story or justification, just a little bit of text and a few admittedly amusing gags. The game revolves around procedurally generated maps and no roguelike elements, except for the different playable leaders you can unlock. It's very simple and fast-paced. You purchase and place workers and they collect food, wood or gold depending on what resources are in the circle you placed them. Almost definitive of an RTS. But unlike usually is my approach to this genre, sitting around and waiting for resources, waiting until I'm stable, is not my go-to in this game. That's a common issue for me. I often feel discouraged by real-time strategy games to play aggressively and constantly move, preferring to be sedentary, attacking enemies as they come until you're ready. And in all fairness, on this game those things do happen at first. But later you will realize that aggressive expansion is necessary for survival, because the more circles you conquer, the more resources you can earn. As far as I can tell, POPCAP is not an issue. So you can have them harvest, and then convert those resources into units to bolster your war machine. And sure, that also sounds like an RTS staple, but here it's a bit different, because here you can recruit units by holding in left click. Usually I would hold it in until I was dry. Bacterial growth. Then take over stronger circles, get more resources, flood that circle with more fodder, and repeat until done. Consume and destroy, consume and destroy. Or maybe plop those units onto a different circle when you get attacked. Controlling multiple armies and having an instantaneous flanking maneuver maybe. Sometimes just selecting them all, right-clicking, and then panning somewhere else, trusting that the math checks out. This number's bigger than that number, it should be fine, and eventually the clinking, clanging, and shinging will stop. Speaking of bacterial growth, how about you help me invade the homes of multitudes and like and subscribe? Although no pressure, I'm grateful you even watched. Attack what circles you believe you can take on, like a true scavenger, and try and expand in the total war fashion. You know, have a focus on conquering territory. That would decrease the amount of fronts you have to focus on. Honestly, that's all there is to it. You can adhere to the bolstering playstyle until you reach a strong circle, or maybe the final one. Maybe just wait it out. Keep adding to the force until you have way more than you need. Bolster them by building towers on the adjacent circles that will, when the time comes, launch fire, ice, and poison at them. Real convenient that they join the fight. And then, right-click. But beware. The impending extermination will have so many units flailing weapons around, and a lot of times most of them will be on fire, leading to two extreme outcomes. Firstly, you can't really see what's happening. Kind of feeds into the set it and forget it combat. And secondly, the game, I believe, is easy to run, except until this massive battle sprites overwhelm my PC. I experience frame rate drop even on my proper gaming PC. On this game. Other than that, there's not much else to unit strategy. But there are some things you can consider. There are a lot of unit types. Ranged units, for instance. Maybe try and organize a fight over a water circle. Take advantage of the waiting. Have axe throwers whose axes penetrate through multiple enemies. It must be said, they're incredible axe throwers. They throw them like 4 without even having to spin. Maybe go cavalry heavy to add to your killing momentum. But honestly, this game's military-industrial complex is strong and fast. Usually what I did is I just just threw resources at the problem, holding in click with different unit types selected, trying to balance out the army in a very carefree manner. Was I even balancing it? Or was I just flattening more mince onto the meat wall? Your leader benefit is arguably more important because it can give you more resources, faster development speed, or even units to choose from. Although transitioning from a standard army to an army made up of Cinderella's fairy godmother's henchpeople, or creating warriors from a food source that costs wood to place, probably offers quite a different playstyle. But it was much too slow for me to truly try. The same goes for worker armies. I'm sure there's a way to make these styles work for you. It just interferes with my conquest. So ultimately, the game is fun, fast, no worry. Low energy, perhaps a great in-between game. Don't take the war too seriously, it's incredibly predictable. But I'd say it doesn't outstay its welcome. Plus there are higher difficulties if you want them, for all the game modes. But I beat a nightmare difficulty match very early. But harder difficulty modes can offer stuff like the map has more swamp biomes that slowly kill the average worker. There are free game types, Monster Hunt, which tasks you in defeating specific and increasingly powerful warlords. Still procedurally generated maps, I believe, but with a fixed amount of mountaintops. This is as close to a campaign as this game has, where the AI will take opportunities but not really form empires. Next up, we have Circle Conquest, which is similar, but you have to conquer it all and choose the map size. And lastly, you can face off against up to 3 enemy empires, and they can actively consolidate power and offer a real challenge. And I'm done. Whew. That was fun. I didn't finish it. I mean, this is all you do. It took me 8 hours to complete 11 out of 12 of the monster hunts, medium full conquest, and lastly a medium imperial conflict against 3 AI empires. Until a giant goblin smashed me. And as it turns out, it's also a score chaser, and your score increases your treasury. Wait, why does this lag? Is this game just poorly optimized? And the music is fairly good, I suppose. Some of it is kind of functional in its military regalia feel. But I like these cutesy, relaxing adventure tracks. And I like the audio design, as mentioned, the clinging and clanging. If that can be a bit cacophonous. But also apparently these mountains can sustain full ecosystems, somehow. Maybe open-air caves just below the clouds, I don't know. And the visuals are nice and clean, cartoony, with untextured segments really, and no faces like cute Slendermen. And for some reason the ghosts and goblins look a touch more human. It's cute, tiny empires that don't build much. Not just stripped down strategically, but also visually. Some elements can look grungy though, rather abrupt changes from biome to biome, and that's some unpleasant dark dirt. But ultimately I would say it looks good. Not amazing, but good. I mean, you fight over a massive 6-pack, a 49-pack. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to conquer a mountaintop that's hollowed out with water in it? You can conquer a mermaid fish bowl. It's a lovely compact thing, exciting for short periods of time, in between simple plays. The game is kind of cheap on Steam. 91 Rand full price, 18 Rand 20 cents on sale. That's 2 Rand 28 cents per hour of gameplay, which is pretty good. And some of you may even play more of it as an in-between game. It's simple enough for it, but of course it's so simple, a great deal of you won't play this much of it. So please take this into account. And to download it isn't that bad, as it only takes up 1.23 gigabytes on the hard drive. Not the easiest, but not the worst. And it does work on the Warhorse. 29 to 31 frames per second zoomed in, 21 to 23 FPS when completely zoomed out, and 15 to 19 FPS while in combat mid-zoom. So on the Warhorse it is a bit laggy, but its set it and forget it nature made it quite playable for me. Not everyone will agree, but I will point out that my fear was not justified. You know how this game lags on my gaming PC during the massive fights? I thought here on the Warhorse it would be a deal breaker, but when the last circle was left to conquer, During one of my tests, I saw 20 to 21 FPS, which isn't that much lower than the other laggy bits on the Warhorse, and even mid-zoom on 172 units, plus the enemy army idling, just sort of hanging out, can get 28 to 29 FPS. So those realizations may be enough to convince some, but I perfectly understand if you put this in the unplayable column. In that case, here are the system requirements, you make the call. It's rather disappointing, something that looks like this. I thought it would work. And stereotypically, I'd say it's kid-friendly. I can't remember anything objectionable in it. At most, maybe it has some eye itch on occasion. That might happen if you're looking at this chaos. And here I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I'm going to mention the lack of same-screen multiplayer, because this really just seems like something cute and lovely to have that feature with. Even if you make it split screen, it's not as though it's the most demanding control scheme. I'd argue you can be competitive with very low input. But alas, the game is good, clean visuals. It's cute, but the sprites don't have many textures, which can look grungy, but other times amusing, as said Slenderman. And the transitions between biomes can be rather abrupt, rigid and unpleasant. Going from a bright, cute green to a dark, unpleasant, grayish black. But ultimately, it's cute, compact. Love those circles. Conceptually, it's lovely. And the game is fun, fast, accessible, stripped down, real-time strategy gameplay. Simple and compact. Something you can play with next to no effort if you want. Experience the endorphins of bacterially growing an army from nothing. And you can just continue to grow your horde. No POPCAP as far as I could see, but the game is more of a score chaser than a campaign situation, and the same thing I called a pro just now, the low input, low effort nature of it, it's not for everyone. I'm just saying I love that this option exists. The game does give you a fair amount of choice in difficulty modes. If the nightmare difficulty was easy enough for me to defeat early on, the music is pretty good. It might be able to punch through your expansionist focus to contribute to the low energy style of the game. They can be cute and relaxing, I think, but the less cute ones are okay, I suppose. And I like the combat noise, if some will find it cacophonous. On the maybe side, the game doesn't really have a story. A few good gags though, that you read, and depending on how well you've made your horde, victory or defeat can happen in the blink of an eye. I wasn't kidding that aggressive expansion was necessary to survive. So if that's not your strategy bag, this game is not for you. But once again, I love this approach. The game is so simple that cutthroat expectation isn't as frustrating. If I lose, I can try again. Loss isn't soul crushing. That's not to say I can't play this way with other RTS games, but here it just felt more natural. And on the con side, as is usually the case with the genre, it's quite repetitive. In all fairness, maybe the more score-chasey, compact approach does work against the con, as in that's the point. Just drop in and out, carefree fun. But on the other hand, this gameplay is very repetitive. It's set it and forget it. Get a horde, right click. I played this long because I love to see carnage. Didn't matter to me that I couldn't see what was going on. Sure, the game has finer details, but to an extent they didn't matter. Did I really care about troop composition, their strengths and weaknesses? Ultimately, I probably cared more about that number. Did I really set up that ambush in the water? No. Too much effort, didn't need to. And while it is procedurally generated, well, as much as it can be, there are no roguelike elements other than unlocking the different playable leaders. So there's not a lot to hook you here. Honestly, I loved this game's approach. Played it for a short burst until it was dry. But I know for a fact some people won't play it as long as I did. Will find it abhorrently simple, as a waste of time. And unless I'm doing something wrong, I usually don't mention this and assume it's my fault, the fault of my PC, but I'm pretty sure this game is poorly optimized. If something that looks this cartoony can actually cause my gaming PC to lag, come on, play it. And have the best workers in the world. This mountainous terrain makes for hardy folk. They can heave massive pumpkins and catch fish with their bare hands. That's not even the most impressive thing. They can chip gold with their bare hands too. Maybe it was wrong of me to be resentful of sports commentators talking about the air pressure.